Yeah?
Your haircut looks nice.
Thank you. I like it. You're talking more, and you're saying the right things. It was okay? You had enough time? All right. We have not scored the midterms yet, as I have just returned. I'm sorry I wasn't here, but it's painful for me to watch people take midterms, so I had to go. But we will have them scored. You'll get them back in your discussion sections on Monday. And I'll tell you a little bit about the statistics, not only for the midterm, but for the class in general in class on Wednesday. And if you're interested in knowing how you're doing so far, now we have enough homework assignments and tests that I can give you some kind of general idea about how you're doing in the class if you don't already have that idea. And if you want to know about that, email me and we'll make an appointment. Or come in my office hours this Wednesday and we can talk about it. Okay? Good. Are there any questions before I start? All right. There is a homework assignment, our next homework assignment. It's posted on the web page. You'll see it posted for today's lecture. I won't go over that homework assignment now because to do it you'll need today's lecture. And today's lecture is a very good model for what the homework assignment asks. Okay? The TAs will go over it in discussion section on Monday. There's just one question. There are a mere 3 parts to that question. There are 3 answers you need to give. I think it's straightforward. It's due a week from today, Friday. Okay? That's the day before spring break. You are aware that spring break is coming up. So please try to get that into us. Well, you must get that into us before you leave for spring break. Okay? I left before the midterm talking about the role that phonological features play in those rules that control phonemes and allophones. And I said at that time that those same properties, those same phonological features, also play a role in phonotactic constraints. So in stating that knowledge we have about what combinations of consonants are possible in onsets and in codas. And I thought today I would tell you a little bit about that. It's that the homework assignment that comes out today challenges you on. Okay? Now, I had planned on doing that originally a week ago. And a week ago, I thought the answers you gave to the second homework assignment. Do you remember the second homework assignment? Remember that assignment? Do you remember that assignment? It had a question where I asked you to look at all the combinations of phones that could make up a coda, where one of those phones was a stop or a fricative, and the other phone was pa, ta, ka, ga, ba, da. Do you remember that? Good. Because I wanted to start today by looking at the answer to that question. Okay? So we've looked at what you came up with, and I thought I'd start by just kind of summarizing what is in your answers. And then I thought what we would do is look at those answers and see if we can't find generalizations that could be expressed as phonotactic constraints on codas. Okay, so just to remind you, here's what I asked. I asked you to look at all of the codas that are made up of 2 phones where, ignoring the glottal stop, one of the phones is a stop, pa, ta, ka, ba, da, ga, that's non-nasal. Okay, and the other phone is a fricative or a stop. Okay? All right. So that was the question I asked you. And I gave you that table. And, what I told you to do was go and lose your friends by asking them, can you think of a word that ends with g? Can you think of a word that ends with g? And so on. Okay? Here's what I came up with. So these are all the combinations that fit that pattern, where I could find an actual word in English that ended that way. Okay? So for instance, well, I told you that spa is possible, as found, for instance, in this word cusp. And tramp, is possible. St is possible, must. Ts is possible, as in mutts. Sht is possible, as in fished. Nt, rant. X, makes. Nk, ink. Bz, tubs. Zd, fizzed. Nd, band. Bear with me. I'm still trying to learn the IPA. Gd, lagged. Z, odds. Ja, but that's an affricate, so that's not in the list of things I asked you to look for. Nga, nga, nga. I couldn't think of a word in my English that ends that way, but I think I've heard people say wrong. Yeah. Are any of you from central New Jersey? Do you say this?
Wrong.
Wrong?
Wrong.
Do you say that? Is that how you? No. You know people who do? Ma'am?
I had a friend when I was a kid who said, she said swimming wrong.
She did.
Yeah.
What happened to her?
She moved to Wisconsin and I never heard from her now.
That happens. Yeah, Wisconsin is like that. So I put it in my list because I wasn't sure about my own feeling about that. I know I can't think of a word that I say that ends that way, but I think there are Englishes out there where that's a possible coda, so that's in my list of possibilities. Ps, as in depth, ft, as in gift, gz, as in bugs, vd, as in relieved, zd, as in bathed, md, as in wronged, md, as in summed, bd, as in robbed, mta, as in dreamt, kta, as in locked, ska, as in mask. This is an affricate, cha, batch, so it's not really in there. Th, as in eighth, frothed, so sta, wrapped, and cups. I couldn't think of any other combinations where there were actually existing words, at least in my speech, that combined those two things, a non-nasal stop with a stop or a fricative, ignoring a. Are there any in here that I've left out? Are there any that you found? This is why it would have been nice to do this 2 weeks ago, that damn snow, when this was still fresh. Are there any other combinations that you remember finding? These combinations, I'm pretty sure, aren't possible. Like, so when I make up words that end with these combinations, it doesn't sound like English to me. So, tna, matna, matna? No, I don't think so. Pna, opna, opna? Doesn't sound English, does it? Kna, akna, kma, ikma, fba, offba, offba. I don't. Are there any in here that you think the p? Yeah.
Some people say
With a duh? No. No one says that. Yeah.
What?
Anissa does, but Anissa's not quite a person. She's not. She's about 3/4 of a person. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Do you see any in here that you think you have? No? How about bs, bs? Cups. Cups. Does anyone have that? Cups. No? Yes? Ma'am?
You said like abs?
Abs?
Yes.
What made you think of that? Abs. Oh, these aren't abs, are they? Okay. Sorry. I don't have them, so I don't really know. Abs. Abs. No, I think abs is bzz. Bzz. Try it and see what you think. So grab your throat firmly, please, and say abs. Abs. Probably that last fricative is not sa. Do you agree? It's za. Abs. I think it's bzz. And another one we might focus on is, where the hell is it? Oh, sorry about my swearing. God damn it! I got to remember not to swear. Tz. Does that sound? So, like for instance, cuts. Is that possible for anyone? Cuts. And how about ds? Ds. Does anyone have a word that ends with ds? Does it sound good to you? Uds. Uds. No? Okay. So these are, some of the combinations that fit that template. This list, I'm pretty sure, are bad, are blocked by phonotactic constraints on codas in English. And this list, I'm sure, are good, because, at least in my English, there are words that actually have codas like these. They end with them. Yeah. And then there's a bunch that are somewhere that I can't tell. I can't find words that end that way. When I make up ones that end that way, I can't quite tell. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just funny, or is it really completely out? So this is these are the two lists I came up with. Is there any dissent here? Are we? Okay. So let's look and see if we can find any patterns to those things that are not possible codas. If this is the list of things that aren't possible codas, let's see if we can find any generalizations or patterns in these combinations. And I thought maybe the easiest way of doing that would be looking at those that are in the list of possible codas and comparing them to matched pairs that are in the bad list, the list that are not possible codas. So here. So what I've got on this side is spa and ps, pt, st, ts, st, k, s, lukt. Yeah? And then over on the other column are pairs that are from the bad list that are very close to pairs that are in the good list. See, like, this is spa and this is spa. This is ps and this is bzz. This is pt, wrapped, and this is pt, wrapped. If you look at these lists, what you'll see is that in the bad list, the first sound is the same as in the good list. And the second sound is just like the first sound, except it's voiced. Pa's voiceless, ba voiced. Sa's voiceless, za, the same thing as sa, but voiced. Ta is voiceless, da is just a voiced ta, and so on. So if we look at these lists, what seems to be like a pattern maybe is the second sound here has to be voiceless. It can't be voiced. If you make it voiced, it's bad. And if you look at all of these good pairs, what you might notice is that the first sound, tha, sa, pa, sha, ka, they're all voiceless. Maybe that's a pattern. If a coda has two sounds in it, and the first is voiceless, the second better be voiceless too. Okay. Right, here's another matched pair of lists, just like the first. And what I've done is pretty much the same thing. So I've taken pairs of consonants here that make good codas, so they're in the list of codas that were good. And I've created ones that are bad. In this case, though, what I've done is I've taken the second sound in the coda of the good pair and made it voiceless. So sa is just a voiceless za, ta is just a voiceless da, and so on. And indeed, I think robbed is fine, but robbed isn't. I think tubs is fine, but tubs isn't. And if you look at this list, what you'll notice is that the first sound in all of these good codas is voiced. Yeah. Well, stop looking right here. Yeah. Save these in your mind for a moment. Okay. So these are all pairs of voiced consonants, and what I've done here is made one of them voiceless. Okay. So if we look at that, what we are seeing is a pattern that looks something like what we saw just a moment ago. If the first sound in a coda is voiced, the second better be voiced too. If you make it voiceless, then you get, sometimes anyway, badness. Okay. But if we look at this end of the list, we see that that isn't always true. So this is fine. Dreamt has a voiced consonant followed by a voiceless consonant. Tramp, voiced, voiceless. Rant, voiced, voiceless. Ink, voiced, voiceless. So those are all fine. However, and now here's where it gets tricky, if you look at these sounds that are in the first slot and compare them to the sounds that are in the first slot up here, where making the second sound voiceless creates a bad coda, what you notice is that all of these sounds down here are nasal. And none of these sounds up here are. Also, all of these sounds down here are sonorants. Sonorants, remember, are sounds that have that kind of zinging-like quality. And none of the sounds above are sonorant. Okay. So if we take this into account, what we're looking at is something like this. If you're building a coda and the first sound is voiced but not sonorant, the second sound better be voiced. So here's a way of stating those two generalizations. A coda, if it's made up of something that's voiceless, followed by something that's voiced, is bad. That's what that star signifies in linguistics. A star means the thing that I'm attached to is ill-formed, ungrammatical, can't do it in this language. In English, we cannot, it seems, make a coda whose first thing is voiceless if the second thing is voiced. That's what we saw in the first list. And this is what we saw in the second list, a coda that's made up of something that's voiced but not sonorant can't have as its second member something that's voiceless. This must be voiced. That combination of sounds is bad, makes a bad coda. Okay. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what you learned about codas in English. You did not learn when you learned English, oh, this list of 300 combinations is not possible. And this list of 15 is. You learned instead this. This particular combination of properties, voiced, voiceless, voiceless, voiced, is bad unless the first is sonorant. You with me so far? Okay. So we've learned two new phonotactic constraints now. These about codas. Here they are. We'll learn one last one that comes out of that list that I asked you to formulate. Here are some examples of good codas. Mda, nda, and gunda, wronged, banned, and summed. And what I've done in making bad codas is simply reverse the order of these two things. Okay. And indeed, these are terrible. Sadma, badna, radn, radn. Yeah, that's it. Terrible codas in English. What we're seeing here is this. We would see more of this if I'd given you a slightly wider class of things to look at. What we're seeing here is if you've got two sounds in a coda and one of them is sonorant, na, na, and ma are sonorants, that thing must, and the other isn't sonorant, the sonorant must come first. So if you're combining a sonorant and a non-sonorant, that's the order. Sonorant before non-sonorant. Sonorant before non-sonorant. That's the order they come in. Here's some other examples of the same trend using sounds that I didn't ask you to look at. So, turd, that's a perfectly good coda anyway, but you can't reverse the two. Tidr, no good. Meld, medle, no good. Okay. So here's a way of stating that constraint. A coda can't be made up of something that isn't sonorant if the second thing is. Okay? Is it? See these? So we've learned three new constraints, phonotactic constraints. These on codas. All right. Okay. All right. When I started this class, I said to you, what we're going to do is we're going to learn something about how the arrangements of signs convey meaning. And then I taught you the IPA, and then I cut open people's heads and showed you how sounds are made. Then I showed you what the sounds that are made look like if you use instruments to take a look at the disturbance in the air created thereby. I spent, in other words, I wasted 5 weeks of your life not doing that. Instead, what I did was show you how the bits that go up into making these signs are constructed. We looked at the sounds that make up signs. We haven't even begun looking at how the signs arrange themselves to convey meanings. Why did I take so long to do that? Because I am slow. And I am not a good teacher. Okay, those are the official reasons. Today, we will start doing what I promised you. Also, I lie. Well, there's some other failings I have too, but we can learn them later. Okay. Today, we will look at bringing together these units that convey meaning and look at how the arrangements do that. Up to now, what we've been doing is looking at words and considering how the sounds that make up those words are fashioned. And I've told you to think, well, it's these words whose internal composition we've been focusing on that are the signs. But that's not quite true. Remember, I lie. Indeed, if we look at a bunch of words, we can see sometimes patterns in them that suggest that the meaningful bits, the things that are signs, are actually smaller than words. So look at this list, for instance. Read, do, see, like, scratch. Readable, doable, seeable, likable, scratchable. If you look at this column, we have a series of words. This column has a series of words that has inside it The first series, readable has read, doable has do, and so on. In addition to the words that are in this column, these words have able. That's not a word, but it's a meaningful bit nonetheless. Readable means able to read. Seeable means able to see. Doable means able to do. These little bits are called morphemes. And it's the study of morphemes, morphology, that we'll turn to now. What we look at in these columns is something like this. Somehow in your head there's a formula that says read plus able can make this larger word readable. These two morphemes, read and able, can combine to make a larger one, a word. Likeable, made from like and able. Washable, from able and wash. Okay. There are different classes of morphemes. We'll talk about how to classify them along a lot of dimensions, but I'll start by just introducing you to this rather simple distinction. Some morphemes can stand by themselves as entire words. Those are called free morphemes. Other morphemes are never found by themselves. They're always found in a larger unit, a word. Those are called bound morphemes. Read, for instance, is a free morpheme. It can be by itself or in a larger word. Able, by contrast, is a bound morpheme. It's only found in a larger word. Bound morphemes are sometimes called affixes. There's a slight difference in how these terms are used, but for us they'll always mean the same thing. Let's look at one case that has some interesting properties. Here's a situation where what we'll look at is we'll take a word that belongs to the morphological category, morphosyntactic category verb, and we'll see that it's possible to make another verb by adding at the end of it duh. The bound morpheme, the affix, duh. The verb that results means what the original verb meant, plus something about when it happened. This is a way of putting verbs into their past tense, as it said. So here's some examples. Call, called. Scream, screamed. Say, no. Sigh, sighed. What's that? Yeah. This. I just realized I can't do this very well, so I'm not going to reveal that on film because my boss will see that. What's this? And this? You guys are so good. What's this? And this? Here? Yeah. Oh, shit. This? Oh. This? Yeah, tongued. You know, like a dog. Okay? Past tense. All right? Not always, though. What's this? Yeah. What's the past tense? Frothed. Not frothed. What's this? What's the past tense? Not cussed. Cussed. Are you okay? All right. I thought you were groaning. What's this? Cough. What's the past tense? Coughed. Not coughed. 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 Spelled like it should be, pronounced differently though, right? Talk. Talked. Not talked. Hitch. Hitched. Not hitched. And wish. Wished. Not wished. This affix, duh, goes on the ends of verbs, but sometimes we pronounce it ta. Why? What's the difference between these verbs and these verbs? Well, look at the sound that ends these verbs. They're all voiceless. Look at the sound that ends these verbs. They're all voiced. We just learned that if a syllable has a coda, the first member of which is voiced, the first member of which is voiceless, the second member cannot be voiced. Cannot be voiced. Right? That's one of our phonotactic constraints. What happens here, ladies and gentlemen, is that when we put this suffix on, it's voiced, it's a single consonant, it becomes part of the coda of the verb it attaches to. And sometimes that is crap. It violates a phonotactic constraint. Sometimes it's not. When it's crap, we uncrapify it. We change the voicing of that affix so that it conforms to the phonotactic constraint. Cool, isn't it? But sometimes even that doesn't help. Consider the verb fold. If we add "da" onto fold, what do we get? Fold. Nothing wrong as far as the voicing constraint goes with "da" or "da" being a coda. But "da" is not a possible, "da" is not a possible coda in English. It violates a constraint we haven't yet seen. So making this voiceless isn't really going to help. It's going to make from folded "folded", which is also really, really awful. What happens? We turn Japanese. Remember what happened with our... She's not here anymore, is she? She seems to have left the class permanently. She was sitting right here, and now she's not there anymore. Remember what happened to our Japanese speaker? We gave her words that violated the phonotactic constraints of Japanese by putting together consonants in onsets or codas that Japanese doesn't allow. And what did she do, besides drop the class? Well, one thing she did is she stuck in a vowel to separate those bad consonants. And that's what we do here. Fold becomes fold. Good coda there. Id. Good coda there. Folded. That's not the only place it happens. It happens here too. So like if you take the verb bat and try to form the past tense by affixing on this "da" at the end, what you would get is batsd. Batsd. Now batsd is bad. Batsd is bad because "t" is voiceless, "da" had better be too. What do we do in these cases? We change this from voiced to voiceless, which would give us something that's even worse. Batst. Batst is bad, not for any particular phonotactic constraint that I've taught you, but it's still bad. Batst is not a good coda. So this didn't help. But that will. St cannot be rescued by changing d to t. And so, again, we go to Japan. We stick in a vowel to separate these bad boys. Each of them now makes up their own coda. Bat and d. Okay? This process of sticking in vowels in order to separate consonants that can't be close to each other, like can't be in a coda or can't be in an onset together. This is called epenthesis. And that's what's happening in these cases. Clear? Ma'am?
Would some people maybe change the T to a D as well? Like it would be baited, not baited?
Ah, yes. So what's this vowel here, madam?
I don't know what it's called, but it's Or so it would be batted.
It's a.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. So you're thinking of a different word, which was what? I forgot. Baited?
I don't know where I was going with that. Never mind.
Baited? Baited? Baited?
I was thinking, like, I don't know fishing if that is called.
Uh-huh. I think what might be happening is this. So, think about bat. Now we put duh on, we do the epenthesis, and we get batted. But of course, in real speech, what you say is not, I batted the ball. Right? No, not us. What we say probably instead is batted. And what's happening there is that the ta is changing to a flap. That little sign that I taught you about, it's sort of like a very short duh. That duh sound is an allophone of ta. And so in this context, I think that's what's happening. Yeah, so it's a good point. Are we okay with this? Is it clear? Good. Let's stop. I'm tired. Let's have a weekend. I'll see you on Wednesday.